Hi, this is part 3, end of this project. Let's get started. Hi guys, this is the part 3 video. If you haven't watched the part 1 and 2, please go watch. Part 1, make a plan. 2, knitting from top to down. And in this tutorial, I am going to talk about this decreasing the sleeve. Nice and evenly decreased. Then add in the rib. If you like the balloon sleeve, I knitted it before and I am going to add video in my description. So please go and watch. So in the part 2, I leave my sleeve with scrap yarn. Now you have to transfer all the sleeve stitch onto needle. You can cut the yarn first and then put the needle, or you can put the needle first and take the yarn out. Either way. Okay, so after this, we have to focus on connecting new yarn. Okay, you need few markers. 2 clip-on marker would be ideal and 1 begin marker. All right, and first of all, I want you to add 1 marker before last stitch. This side would be my last. There you go. And add clip-on marker there. If you don't have the clip-on marker, you can use the scrap yarn, whatever you like. All right, and then I am going to knit up where I don't have any more stitch. However, I am going to start in the center of new cast, and that'll be my new begin. Obviously, I can't put the begin marker right now, so I add 8 stitch, new cast, right? So right in the center, so 4th stitch, that's where I'm going to start. And face to right side and start knitting up. Decreasing starts after I connect. So don't worry about it. I will talk about it later. Anyway, so I knit up 1, 2, 3, just where, cast on, new stitch are, right? So 4. I knit up 4, half of my new cast. And the other half is the other side. So after I knit up 4, I am going to, knit up 1 more stitch in between. Before you knitting up, add 1 more marker. Then knit up 1 extra. Middle of nowhere, in between last 4 and the first original stitch. So I increase 1 stitch. However, I am going to decrease with extra new stitch and first original. So don't worry about it. All right, and knit until the other side of the marker. Here comes end of this row. Knit until the marker. And after the marker, there's 1 original stitch, so you just have to knit and then knit up start. How many stitch I knit up? 5, right? 4, above the new cast and 1 extra. So now I have to knit up 1 extra first, right after the last one. Okay? And I will increase 1 stitch right after the last original, and I will decrease anyway with the last stitch. So don't worry about it. And after the extra knit up, I have to knit up 4, which is original new cast on top of the original new cast, right? So another word, I have 8 stitches total just above the new cast, which I added before, and then 2 extra for both sides. You know what I'm saying? That's why you have to remember how many cast you had to add when you connect the body. Okay, so now I have 10 stitches total. And I increase 1 stitch for both sides, and I decrease 1 stitch for both sides. Why I'm doing this? Because if I add just 8 stitch, there's gotta be little gap around that area. You can close, but this way looks more professional. So right there where the clip-on markers are. Okay, so I'll show you the other side. There you go. This is the armpit area, and there's no big gap. However, you cannot avoid the gap. So minimize the gap. So if you still notice little gap, you can kind of, sew little there, here and there. You know what I'm saying? So you can't completely avoid sometimes. So then just to close the gap after. So whenever you connect the new ball of yarn, you should use longer end of the tail. There you go. And then after I connect, I will decrease. And decreasing is under your arms, starting from the armpit, so nobody can see, right? That's why in the center of the new cast, I have to start. So I add new begin marker. Then let's knit 1 round. And again, I have to decrease 1 stitch for both sides. So knit until the green marker, first marker, there you go. And here, 1 extra and first original, knit 2 together to decrease 1. And kind of, knit tightly there to make sure, that you can minimize the gap, and knit 1 around until the next marker. And remove the marker, and this time you do SSK, slip, slip, knit. So 1 last one and 1 extra, SSK, and little tight, yeah. Then knit till begin marker. So this is the connection part. So you need 2 rows to connect. So I minimize the gap. You see little gap right now, but when you start knitting, it will close. All right? So don't worry about it too much. And again, if you can't really close enough, you can use that entail to kind of, close that up. All right? So now let's focus on how to decrease the sleeve evenly. And you need to find out some stitches. Number one, how many stitches do you have right now? I have 76 total. Number two, how long do you want to knit before the rib? 13 stitches for me. And how many stitches do you want at the end? I decide 36. How did I know? I just wrap it around my wrist and I decide 36, which means 76 minus 36, 40 stitches. I'm going to decrease 40 stitches within 13-inch length. However, okay, 40 stitch divided by 2 because I am going to decrease 2 stitch at the same time. So let me tell you this. I have 76 stitches total right now and I want to decrease 40 stitches. However, like I said, I am going to decrease 2 stitch at a time, which means I have to decrease 20 times for 40 stitches, right? So I have to decrease 20 times within 13-inch. So, which means 13-inch divided by 20 is 0.65. You have to decrease every 0.65 inches, which is kind of impossible, right? So now I have to find out how many rows I'm going to knit. So my gauge kicks in. 4-inch versus 13-inch equal 25 rows. Now I need my rows versus X rows, which I want to figure it out. 4x equal 13 times 25. X equal 13 times 25 divided by 4. X equal 81.25. So I will knit about 80 rows for 13-inch long. You know what I'm saying? So now 80 divided by 20 is 4, right? Another word, I will decrease 2 stitches every 4 rows. Then I will have that my desired wrist stitch count right there before the rib. Anyway, this decreasing method pattern would be different for everybody because I don't know how many stitch do you want to decrease, how fast, how slow. Maybe some people don't even want to decrease too many. I really like the small wrist because when I have to do the dishes and all that, it's easier, right? Anyway, so I have to decrease every 4 rows, which means I will have pattern row number 1 to row number 4, right? But some people maybe repeat of the 8 rows, 2 rows. I don't know. All right? So make sure about it. And decreasing always at the end. So for me, row number 1 to row number 3, just own it because this is just knitting round, right? No more knitting flat. So just knit 3 rows for me. And on the 4th row, every 4 rows. So I am going to decrease 2 stitch. So I meet you there. Once again, if you have to decrease every 6 rows, you have to decrease right on the row 6. Okay? So here comes end of row number 3. Sleeve row number 3. And now sleeve row number 4. Decreasing kicks in. Okay? Knit 1 first. And yarn still at the back. Then slip 1 purlwise slip. Then knit next one. Then PSSO. Pass the slip stitch over. And now I decrease 1 stitch there. And knit until last 3 stitch before the marker. Then knit 2 together there. So I'll show you for just in case. This is super easy. So knit until last 3. Then knit 2 together to decrease 1 stitch first. Then knit 1 just before the begin marker. There you go. And I decrease 2 stitch on row 4. And you just have to repeat row number 1 to row number 4 until your desired length or desired rows. For me, 80 rows. After I finish 80th row should be 13-inch long from the start. And if you want to add a few more rows, fine. However, after 80 rows, I am going to start my rib. And make sure the length is long enough. And, stitch count should be your desired stitch count. If there's something wrong, you did wrong with your math. All right, so please be careful. Super easy. Just little, math and follow your own pattern there. There's no gap there. It's beautiful. Perfect. Okay, so this is end of my sleeves. 80th row, which is my row 4. Knit 2 together, then knit 1. That's it. And change the needle to 4mm for me. Some people don't even want to, bother. It's really up to you. 1 size down for me. Again, everybody has different preference, right? Some people like very tight wrist like me. Some people don't. So decreasing stitch is up to you. You can even make a balloon sleeve. And if you do, I will put the link in my description and you can watch that video as well. Anyway, after you change the needle, start making rib, which is same as body. Repeat off, knit 1 and purl 1. And cast off with 5mm needle for sure this time because I don't like very tight, end. So this gives you little stretchy. So bind off with 1 size bigger needle would be great. So both sleeves have done. There you go, a little stretchy, both end, and there you go. Beautiful. Nice, smooth, evenly. Now, let me talk about the V-neck rib. I add markers at every raglan line. That's because I want to knit up, same stitch count. It's up to you. And for the back piece, in the center of my back piece, that's where you have to start. So I add one marker there to make sure that's my, um, mid stitch, right? So you have to knit up every stitch. So I have 36 back piece and 18 for the sleeves, right? So every stitch I have to knit up except the V part. There's no, stitch there, right? So the total of multiple of 2 plus 1 mid stitch. All right. And I use 4mm needle. So let's do that. So for just in case, I add the little longer tail and then start from mid stitch. So again, for my back piece, 36 stitch total divided by 2 is 18. So I am going to knit up 18 stitch from begin marker to my first raglan marker. It's easy, right? Because there's the stitch, so you just have to knit up. And there we go. I knit up total of 90 stitch, 1/2, and 1 mid stitch right there. And I add the marker and another 90 stitch, which is 180 stitch plus 1 mid stitch. So multiple of 2 plus 1 total. Definitely, the both half has to have same stitch count. Well, not definitely. 1 or 2 difference wouldn't be matter, right? Anyway, let's start. Super easy. Just like regular rib. Start with repeat of knit 1 and purl 1 until last 1 stitch before the mid stitch. This is the reason why I add mid stitch marker to make sure. So knit purl until 1 last stitch before mid stitch right there. All right. And here comes very close. Knit purl until 1 last stitch before the mid marker. So knit purl and 1 more. Knit. So I finish with knit. Remember that. I finished with knit. And now remove the mid stitch. Okay? And slip 2 stitch. The 1 last stitch before the mid stitch and mid stitch. Slide 2 stitch together knitwise. Then knit next one. And pass those 2 slip stitch over PSSO. Okay, pass 2 stitch over. There you go. And the one stitch, the last one, that'll be my new mid stitch. That's it. And I finished with knit, right? So the next one should be purl. Okay? Before the mid stitch, I finish with knit. So start with purl. The first row, very important. And second row, it's easy. Just follow your stitch. You know, if it's the knit, knit over knit stitch and purl over purl stitch. So please be careful on first row. So the end of the first row, and you just have to repeat. That's about it. So knit over knit and purl over purl until one last stitch before the new mid stitch, right? So there you go. And I just finished with purl, I believe, and remove the marker and repeat. Okay, you slip 2 stitch, one last stitch before the mid stitch and mid stitch, slip and knit next one and PSSO. And I finish with purl this time, and I add mid stitch marker first before I forget, and next one should be knit. And you just have to actually follow the stitch from second row. So another word, every row you lose 2 stitch. Okay? So when you knit up, you must knit up, every stitch. Okay? Well, anyway, it's too easy, so I didn't really follow everything. However, whenever you hit the desired length for your, V-neck, cast off. I didn't use the bigger needle because it was quite larger, V-neck, but yours are smaller. You can use the bigger needle to cast off. There you go. This is the V-neck rib. Beautiful. And I love the, the two-tone color for my rib. That's my sleeve. And the decreasing for sleeve, beautiful. I love it. I think this is it. The Raglan line, beautiful. And the pocket, it's so cute. And pocket, it's completely optional. You don't need to. There we go. So this is how it's done. The differences between smaller V-neck and larger V-neck, you have to decide at very beginning. All right? So if you have any question to make a plan, leave your comment. I can try to help you. However, you must knit your swatch, and I need to know your knitting tension as well. All right? Thank you for watching. Bye for now. And enjoy knitting.